The black girl treated the autistic child like a brother. When Angelina Jolie secretly noticed this, both of their lives would change forever. 5-year-old Ethan looked into his parents' eyes for the last time that morning, because his family was abandoning him to his fate, considering him different from other children. This heartbreaking moment took place in the lobby of Sunshine Children's Home. Robert Parker and his wife Jennifer looked at their 5-year-old son Ethan with an expression of shame, while the little boy sat in the corner, pushing the same toy car back and forth over and over again. Ethan is different from other children, Robert continued, as if talking about a piece of furniture. He doesn't behave like a normal child. He doesn't talk. He doesn't look us in the eyes. How can we be parents to him? This isn't the child we wanted. The dorm director, Ms. Rebecca Foster, wasn't surprised by such stories. She'd encountered them too many times to count. But she couldn't help feeling a pang of sadness. Mr. Parker, Ethan is simply on the autism spectrum. He learns a bit differently from other children. If he receives the right support. Jennifer replied sharply, no. My idea of a perfect family wasn't like this. This child is too much trouble and too difficult for us. Ms. Rebecca had done everything she could to reunite the little boy with his family, but she couldn't convince the cruel parents, because they never wanted to be convinced. That's how it was. Poor Ethan was faced with a betrayal that his 5-year-old mind couldn't comprehend. As his parents walked out the door, all he could do was hold on tighter to the toy in his hand. He couldn't understand why he was suddenly left among strangers, or where his parents had gone, leaving him alone. But even though he couldn't understand it logically, he sensed deep down that something bad had happened. And you? Would you leave your child alone in such a situation? 5 long years had passed since that day. Ethan was now 10 years old and still living at Sunshine Children's Home. He didn't speak, rarely made eye contact, but he was a very intelligent child. Ethan's days were filled with strict routines. The order of breakfast was very important to him. First the banana, then the bread. If this changed, the little boy's world would be turned upside down. Sounds bothered him, and he avoided crowded places. He knew numbers perfectly, could distinguish colors, and had a deep interest in music. Music was the food for his soul. It was as if he were traveling through different worlds when he listened to it. Ms. Foster loved him very much. Ethan is a special child, she would tell the staff. He understands us. He just expresses himself differently. Social worker Marcus Washington was also desperately searching for a solution for Ethan's future. This child needs a permanent and understanding family, but finding a family willing to adopt an autistic child is nearly impossible. Ethan had a routine. He woke up at the same time every morning, ate the same breakfast, and sat in the same corner. Change made him very uneasy, and he withdrew into himself. But the person who was about to enter his life would change this routine forever. While all this was happening on this side of the world, a completely different story was unfolding on the other side of the globe. In a small house in Mali, Amara Koné was making the most difficult decision of her life. Unlike Ethan, she wasn't leaving because she was unwanted or unloved. On the contrary, she was leaving because she loved her family so much. That's how life is sometimes. Sometimes you leave because you're not loved, and sometimes you leave because you love too much. Before we continue with our story and its surprising ending, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Let us know in the comments what city you're watching from. Your valuable support is important to us. Young girl said to her mother Fatou, "Mom, I have to go." They were sitting in their small, damp house in Mali. When it rained, water leaked through the roof. Amara lived in a house like this. She was holding her little siblings, Mamadou and Kadia, in her arms. Her mother couldn't hold back her tears. "My daughter, it's too far. America, it's a very different place." I know, Mom, but there's no work here. You know how hard it's been to get by since we lost Dad. We're almost starving every day. If I work in America, I can send you money. Mamadou can go to school. Kadia can get her medicine. Little Mamadou hugged his sister. Please, Amara, don't leave us. Amara's heart was breaking, but she tried to hide her tears. I'm not leaving you. I'll just take better care of you from afar. I'll call you every day. And I'll earn a lot of money and come back. I promise you. 3 weeks later, Amara began her new life in Los Angeles with a single suitcase and 1,000 hopes in her heart. She had come to America after winning the diversity visa lottery. The tall, luxurious buildings here bore no resemblance to their mud brick homes. This was a great opportunity for her, but also a great responsibility. She planned to find a job and start working immediately, both to establish her own life here and to provide financial support for her family in Mali. Her first job would be working as a waitress at Bella Vista restaurant. Under normal circumstances, they wouldn't hire someone with limited English skills as a waitress. But the restaurant manager, Vincent Morales, believed in her sincere demeanor and trusted her, so he wanted to give her a chance. Amara was determined to improve her limited English to a good level. She had no other choice. Her co-worker Emma Nakamura helped her in every way and boosted her morale and self-confidence. Be patient, Amara, Emma would say. When I came from Japan, I didn't know any English either. As the days passed, Amara was getting used to her job, but establishing a routine in a new country, surrounded by completely different people, was no easy task. There were also economic challenges to contend with. Every evening, she would count the few dollars in her pocket. Rent, food, phone. She had very little money to send to her family. At night, she would cry thinking about her family, especially her younger siblings Mamadou and Kadia, whom she missed dearly. One evening, Emma asked her, Amara, why are you so sad? Is it because you miss the family you left behind? Emma, I came here to support my family, but not being able to be with them is very painful. Especially not being able to see my younger siblings is what's hardest for me. Maybe you can do something to make them and yourself happy. You could volunteer at the orphanage in your free time. If you spend time with the children, it might ease your longing for your siblings a little and make you feel a bit better. This conversation contained the suggestion that would change Amara's life. Emma had told her about Sunshine Children's Home. You can help the children there. You can volunteer on weekends. This idea excited Amara greatly. Really? Children remind me of my younger siblings. Spending time with them might be like medicine for me. And so, Amara's path would cross with Sunshine Children's Home. But there was another person whose path would cross hers. That person was one of the world's most famous actresses, someone who had left her mark on Hollywood, Angelina Jolie. But Amara had no idea about this. Not yet. The countdown to the fateful meeting of the three had begun. On her first day, Ms. Foster introduced her to all the children. But the one who caught her attention the most was Ethan, a child with autism. Who is this quiet child? Amara asked, pointing to Ethan, who was sitting alone in the corner. Ms. Foster's face darkened. That's our Ethan. He's 10 years old. He's autistic. His family abandoned him when he was 5. Abandoned him? Amara was shocked. For a moment, she thought of her own family. How could a family abandon their own child? Amara looked at Ethan and remembered her own younger siblings, Mamadou and Kadia. This child was their age and all alone. At that moment, something stirred in her heart. Can he talk? He never speaks, but I've never lost hope in him. Because he's very intelligent and loves music. He calms down when he hears the sound of the piano. From that day on, Amara began visiting the orphanage every weekend. She cared for the little boy as if he were her own brother. Ethan, who had experienced betrayal and distrust of people at an early age, was initially quite distant toward Amara. But as time went on, he began to warm up to her and get used to her. The first breakthrough came when he allowed her to sit within arm's reach without moving away. The young girl read books to him, played games with him, and most importantly, sang to him. Amara had a beautiful voice. When she sang African songs, Ethan would calm down and even smile. However, there was someone else who managed to form a close relationship with Ethan, though not as close as Amara. World-renowned actress Angelina Jolie had recently dedicated her life to the fight for children's rights. She had a particular sensitivity toward children with special needs. She had been visiting Sunshine Children's Home regularly for 3 years. Every visit was scheduled meticulously in her busy calendar, marked as non-negotiable time. She came every second Saturday of the month, spent time with the children, and thoroughly enjoyed these visits. When Angelina Jolie first arrived, she noticed Ethan just like Amara did. "He looks like a different and innocent child," she said to Ms. Foster. "How can I communicate with him?" Ms. Foster told her Ethan's story. As Angelina Jolie listened to his story, she thought of her own children, was deeply moved, and felt equally saddened. No child deserves to be abandoned by their family, especially just because they are different, she said. Her voice carried the weight of someone who had witnessed too much injustice in the world. From that day on, an invisible bond formed between Angelina Jolie and Ethan. She brought him toys, sat beside him, and told him stories. Even though Ethan didn't speak, he recognized Angelina Jolie and gradually warmed up to her. He didn't know it yet, but the magical encounter that would soon take place at Sunshine Children's Home would change the lives of 3 people forever. And that day was now very close. Amara continued to visit every weekend, strengthening the deep bond between her and Ethan. Ethan now smiled when he saw her, and sometimes even let her hold his hand. His small hand would rest trustingly in hers, a gesture that never failed to move her to tears. These changes in the little boy were nothing short of a miracle. "You found the way to his heart," Miss Foster told Amara. "Ethan has warmed up to you so much. No one has been able to change him this much in all this time." Amara's heart was filled with joy. "I see him as one of my younger siblings. He is just as precious to me as they are." The following Saturday, there were only a few hours left until the fates of these 3 people would converge. That Saturday morning, Angelina Jolie, unaware of anything, made her way to Sunshine Children's Home. She had chosen to drive herself that day, needing the quiet time to prepare mentally for her visit. These regular visits were very important to her. She was especially eager to see Ethan. However, this visit would be very different from the others. When she arrived at the home a short time later, Ms. Foster greeted her. "Ms. Jolie, welcome. Ethan has missed you very much." "I've missed him too," Angelina said with a smile. "Where is he now?" "In the playroom. But this time there's a young person who works miracles, a girl who volunteers here." Angelina Jolie asked curiously, "Who is this girl?" "Amara. She's from Africa. She's a very warm girl and gets along great with Ethan." As Angelina Jolie walked toward the playroom, she felt an inexplicable excitement. Who could get along so well with Ethan? She hurried her steps, eager to see this person with her own eyes. And then, in that moment, the sound she heard as she approached the playroom door stopped her in her tracks. It was a soft, enchanting, and heartfelt African song. There was so much tenderness in the voice that Angelina froze. When she peeked through the door, the scene she saw captivated her. A young black girl was sitting on the floor next to Ethan, singing to him. The little boy was moving his hands quickly, as if accompanying her words, and smiling. His movements were fluid and purposeful, a language only he and Amara seemed to understand. They were in perfect harmony with each other. The pure happiness and peace in the room were worth seeing. It usually took Ethan months to get used to strangers, But with this young girl, it was as if they had known each other for years. This situation left Angelina astonished. She had to steady herself against the doorframe, overwhelmed by the beauty of what she was witnessing. She had been visiting this little boy for a long time, but even she had not been able to form such a loving bond with him. In her opinion, Ethan rarely smiled, especially around strangers, but he seemed quite comfortable with this young girl. When Amara finished her song, Ethan began to sway slightly, and a rare expression of peace appeared on his face. His usual tension seemed to melt away, replaced by a serenity that transformed his entire demeanor. This was a sign that he was enjoying the music. "Let's sing another one together, Ethan," Amara said gently. "Which song would you like to sing?" Ethan couldn't speak, but he took Amara's hand and led her to the toy piano. His touch was gentle but insistent, his eyes bright with an excitement that was rare to see. Amara seemed to understand what he wanted to say. "Ah, I see you want a musical song." Their communication, despite their inability to communicate, was amazing. Then the young girl played a simple melody on the piano and began singing again. This time, Ethan tried to accompany her, humming in his own way. Angelina Jolie's eyes filled with tears as she watched this scene. She pressed her hand to her chest, feeling her heart swell with an emotion she couldn't quite name. She had begun to admire this young girl even before meeting her. She continued to watch silently. Amara showed Ethan a book. "What a beautiful book this is. Let's see what's inside." Ethan took the book and began flipping through the pages. Each page turn was deliberate and careful, his fingers tracing the illustrations with wonder. Normally, books didn't interest him at all, but when he was with Amara, he acted like a different person. "You're such a smart and intelligent child, Ethan," Amara said affectionately, "just like my little brothers Mamadou and Kadia." At that moment, Angelina Jolie decided to make her appearance. She took a deep breath, composing herself before gently clearing her throat. She slowly opened the door and walked in. The moment of the three destinies meeting had arrived. When Amara looked up, she saw Angelina Jolie and her heart began to race. The book slipped from her hands, landing softly on the carpet as her world seemed to tilt on its axis. Her mouth fell open, and she didn't know what to say. Was she dreaming? "Hello," Angelina said kindly. "You must be Amara." Amara was still in shock. You're Angelina Jolie." Her voice was barely above a whisper, filled with disbelief and awe. Her voice trembled. Ethan, however, seemed oblivious to the tension and continued playing with his toy. "Yes, it's me. And the scene I just saw was beautiful." There was a sparkle of admiration in Angelina's eyes. When Ethan saw Angelina, he recognized her, and an innocent smile appeared on his face. He stood up slowly and walked over to her, a gesture that spoke volumes about the trust he had developed. Angelina knelt down next to the child and said to him, "Hello, my beautiful child. How are you?" "Ethan is my only friend," said Angelina Jolie, "but I see that you have also become his only friend. How do you get along so well with him?" Amara smiled shyly. "I don't know. He reminds me of my younger siblings. In Africa, I have siblings named Mamadou and Kadia, and Mamadou is Ethan's age." "Are you from Africa?" Angelina asked with interest. "Yes, from Mali. I came to America to work for my family." Angelina Jolie looked at Amara more closely. "So you have siblings too?" "Mamadou and Kadia are quiet children," Amara said, her eyes welling up. "But their quietness is different. It's a bit from poverty. I approach Ethan with the same love I have for my siblings." These words touched Angelina's heart. She felt a deep recognition, seeing in Amara the same protective instinct she felt for her own children. This young girl had not only love, but also maturity. "Amara, can we talk for a moment? You said you came from Africa. To be honest, I want to get to know you better." "Of course." Amara said happily. And so the magical bond between these three people began to form that morning. And that day was just the beginning. The future of this trio was worth seeing. After that day, Angelina Jolie's meetings with Amara became inevitable. When they met, she often talked about her family. "I call them every night," Amara said one evening while chatting with Angelina. "Mamadou sometimes doesn't want to put the phone down and cries hysterically. He asks, 'When are you coming, sister?' Kadia stays quiet. She's younger." But Angelina Jolie was about to surprise this young girl in a way she would never forget. However, there was a time for that. One day, Angelina Jolie asked Amara, "If it's okay with you, I'd like to come to your house and see your living conditions. Can I drop you off at your house?" Amara reluctantly agreed, and when she showed her the small room she lived in, Angelina was deeply shaken. Even her own children's playhouses were bigger than that room. She was living in a small, damp room. Her only possessions were a bed, a small wardrobe, and a family photo on the wall. That night, Angelina Jolie thought about it at home. What could she do in the face of this young girl's sacrifice? She began to form a plan in her mind. The turning point in the young girl's life came after this conversation. Angelina Jolie kept her word. She provided regular support to the family in Mali. Mamadou started school, and Kadia's treatment was arranged. However, these were not big surprises for Amara. She would become something even more valuable than all of this. Meanwhile, the most important change occurred in Ethan. After months of patient work, the first words began to come out of the little boy's mouth. The process was slow but determined. The first word he said was Amara. "Amara," he said one day, to everyone's amazement. That voice seemed to shatter the silence of all those years. Ms. Foster couldn't hold back her tears. He hadn't spoken in 5 years. His first word was your name. I prayed so hard to see him speak one day, Amara. God sent you to us. Angelina Jolie experienced this moment firsthand. This is a miracle, Amara. You didn't just give him love. You gave him trust. Progress was slow but steady. Ethan could now make eye contact and use simple phrases. When Miss Foster said, "He's ready for adoption," Amara felt both happy and sad. She had grown so attached to the little boy that she was deeply afraid of losing him. But in the end, the family who adopted Ethan was the Barnes family, close friends of Angelina Jolie. However, Ethan's bond with Amara never broke. He came to see her once a week, and these visits continued. Exactly 1 year later, the day of Angelina Jolie's big surprise for the young girl had finally arrived. She brought Amara's only family to America. Amara's mother, Mamadou and Kadia, were reunited with their sister after a long time. This was a truly magical moment. Angelina Jolie had secretly planned this to make the young girl happy, and she had succeeded. "Sister," Mamadou shouted at the airport, "I missed you so much." Little Kadia quietly threw herself into Amara's arms. She could finally speak. "Amara, are you a real angel?" Her mother, with tearful eyes, approached Amara from behind the children. She walked quickly and proudly. Then she hugged her daughter tightly, and they stayed like that for a while, crying silently. Angelina Jolie cried with happiness as she watched this scene. "This isn't just a family reunion," she said to herself. "This is proof of the power of love." Now, thanks to the program Amara had set up, hundreds of autistic children were receiving support. A small seed of love had grown into a large forest. Ethan was the first success story of this program. "Ethan taught me," said Amara, "that love requires patience, but the result is always beautiful. Don't forget, sometimes the most beautiful friendships are born in the most unexpected moments, in the purest hearts. Love is the most powerful way to overcome all obstacles."